Hey everybody, we are waiting for AEW Grand Slam Australia to start. Should be going here any minute. I'm excited to chat with you all. Um, I'm excited to watch with you guys. I'm hoping this is a great show. They really stacked it. Let me quick edit something in Twitter. All right, all right. All right. I want to say thank you um, to everybody who has been watching lately. It's been really cool. I'm really grateful for some of the people who've checked in and have been watching YouTube and on X. It means a lot. So we're waiting. I'll pull out some stuff. Last time we had a cool guy come in talk about ADHD and anxiety and depression, and it was cool chatting with him about it. Um, yeah, Yeah, maybe I'll do is I'll go over some of the tweets I went through this week that I was sending out. Um, and the first one that was really strong for me this week was there was a study that was done called the negative bias, in that people who see life from a negative perspective are more likely to experience the negative stronger than the positive. So, like for instance, people with a really shameful and self-critical inner dialogue, will experience loss twice, twice as hard as they experience success. And it got me to thinking about guys like Eric Bischoff, guys sometimes like Bully Ray, guys like Cornette, right? And they're creating these brands, and um, they are, and they're so negative on AEW. And AEW is not a perfect product, by no means. But when you build these negative narratives and you keep instilling these negative thoughts without praising the thoughts, not only, I mean, a lot of people listen to these guys, and if you adapt these thoughts, it makes it twice as hard to enjoy, right? Like the Learning Tree was voted the worst booking thing of this year, and you could feel negative about that. I didn't enjoy a lot of it, but if that's the only thing that we focus on, then we lose out on how awesome this Tony Storm feud is. We lose out on how awesome the matches we got with Osprey and Danielson were. We missed out on all of Osprey's. I mean, Fletcher and him had an amazing. Their first match was amazing on Dynamite, right? And it's like, and not even mentioning stuff too, right? Like Harley Cameron lately's been amazing. And when you just go full on negative, like these guys do, and you instill these thoughts, right? And you can see this on Twitter, social media. I mean, this stuff is toxic. Um, it makes it harder in the long run to enjoy the good things, right? Like, this isn't me making this up. There's a lot of studies done on the negative bias. Like, and I think like one of the things that Bischoff said this week was like, AEW is where careers go to die. That's not true. I mean, yes, some guys probably don't have the same value, but WWE didn't value Copeland more than like 8 dates a year. You know, they didn't value Christian Cage. They didn't value Sting, right? But even more so, all the guys that were cut that are now bigger. Um, for every Mercedes Monet that there is, um, you get a Swerve Strickland, right? He's so much more over in AEW, right? Like, if you want to go down, Tony Storm's way more over in AEW. I mean, 2.0, right? Menard and Matt Menard's way more over. I mean, these guys, they weren't valued. Their career died in WWE. Like, it's just bogus. This is so negative and it's toxic. It's okay to have some negative feedback every once in a while. It's necessary, right? Like, this is how we get our voices heard. It's also holding people accountable for, like, we don't like that. But you know what? Like, Tony Khan's not completely botching. I've really enjoyed the shows lately, and that hasn't always been true for me. There's a lot to like. I mean, who today is not excited for Takeshita and Fletcher versus Omega and Osprey, right? Who's not super excited to see Harley Cameron hopefully get the belt, right? Like, these are great storylines. And if I think the learning tree sucks, but I think it's getting Big Bill over, which if he can get over because of it, like, it's probably more of a reflection of him. All right, we got somebody in the chat. Who we got? I don't know. Someone said that was Wrestling Empire. But anyways, yeah. Like, like, it's okay to have critical feedback. Um, Wanting something to be good that's a good thing. But there's a point in which the criticism becomes destructive, and in ways that I don't think guys like Bischoff understand, and I don't think he cares. Like, that's just me personally. I don't think he cares. He wants to keep making the buck because, like, if you want to look at booking, he's the king of it, right? To criticize Tony Khan as much as he does is hypocritical. It's just hypocritical. It's hypocritical, right? It would mean so much more if a guy like Scott D'Amore came out and criticized the product. But you know what? He doesn't because he's got things to do. He's working on Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Stuff is exhausting. I'm tired of it. Um, so, maybe unself-aware, the other thing I tweeted was actually a critique of Tony Khan, but it didn't start off as bad. I think it was that it was like a few things that were done well by EW, but they failed to capitalize, right? And I brought this up in several ways. One of them being that the Wardlow story, right? I think Wardlow's considered one of the biggest botches by Tony. And like, there's this drama triangle by a psychologist. His last name's Cartman. It's called Cartman's Drama Triangle. And he talks about how in every drama, there's a victim and a persecutor and a rescuer, right? And then the way out of this drama is by adapting certain roles, right? So Wardlow was sincerely, here we go, we got started. Should be a good match. All right. I wonder if we get a Jeff Cobb sighting today. You know, he's supposedly a free agent in New Japan. Jeff Cobb's a beast. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited, right? So the news that came out recently is that they signed Josh Alexander. Josh Alexander to me is the perfect free agent for AEW. And one of the things that you can't criticize Josh Alexander for when he goes to AEW is he's not another ex WWE guy, right? So you take that out of the way, right? And but what also makes him great is right, his style is perfect. You could put him in a G1 and he could win it, and it's believable. And yet he's also willing to do jobs for top guys, right? Like, I mean, you just see some of the stuff he does, like Hammerstone and you know, Osprey, and the guy's putting the work in, and so like he's he's one of the best workers in the world, and that's what's so awesome about AEW, right? Because events like tonight, which are almost pay-per-view level, these that's where these guys learn to thrive, right? And the other one I hear is Speedball Bailey, which makes all the perfect sense in the world too, for the same reasons. And then guys like Speedball Bailey and Josh Alexander, I think, have connections to Scott D'Amore, want to do Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, and Josh Alexander wants to do the G1. So, welcome to AEW. You can do all that with AEW, and he's perfect. Osprey is like when he does this jumping on the ropes. It's one of my favorite things in the world. Like when he does the crowd's chanting his name. That, to me, is one of the best entrances. So is this like Omega's now like a pay per view or special event? All right, we got Kenny Omega. I know Danielson thought that thought he was going to get that amazing trio matches of Omega, and I hope it's not too late. I hope we can still get two more. Right? I think Danielson deserves to go with Fletcher. I feel like he deserves another match with Omega. Takeshita, all of those would be great, right? Josh Alexander would be great. And I have a absurd amount of belief in him. It may not be reciprocated amongst other people, but I'd love to see Danielson go with Nick Wayne. Fletcher's looking more and more like Randy Orton every day. Hey, if someone in the chat wants to tell me, I didn't see how did Osprey's lady go with um, Alex Windsor? Like, how did she do against um, Athena? I'm so glad that Nigel's here. He's so good. Yeah. Oh, I hear a lot of people hate Don Callis, but yeah, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but someone said I hope you have a good stream. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Say bye. And then Zach 2021225 says hi, and I hope you're doing all right there, Zach. I hope you're joining AEW tonight. Oh, that's cool. Terminator theme. Hey, anybody watch the NBA dunk contest? It looks like Mac McClung won again. White boy can dunk. Little white boy. You know what is cool about Mac? It's hard for me to consider these legitimate wins when a G Leaguer's winning it, but what makes me happy for him is this is something that he can hang his hat on, and like it's great if he ever wants to do public appearances someday, like at autograph shows or conventions and stuff. And I'm super happy for him. He seems like a cool dude and a kind guy, um, and just gives him so much credibility, right? Like if his basketball career ends tomorrow, he can have the social media feud of a lifetime by dunking with Jordan Kilgannon. Rice is my favorite ref. I think he just does such a good job of like being a important but subtle figure in the match. Like he sells his count so well. Or sometimes I feel like certain refs have like big egos, and they think of themselves as like a significant part of the match. And sometimes you are a significant part of the match as a ref, but yeah, I just think some refs have big egos. Oh, man, Fletcher's so big. You know what's like awesome about his big is like looks like his frame still has more some more room to add more muscle, but like he's big and he's lean. Like that like oh, what's cool like him is like it's not absurd to book him as a monster. Um especially in AEW. But what's also cool, right, is like he can do all that stuff, right? Like he can do the Spanish fly stuff. He can do high flying stuff. Like he's so well rounded. All right. So what I was saying before about the drama triangle, right, and as it relates to Wardlow, is that the journey for someone who has been a victim and is helpless and doesn't feel like they can do anything for themselves is the person who creates a life that they actually want. And we never got to see that out with Wardlow, right? Like so in the drama triangle, right? Victim, persecutor, rescuer. MJF is the persecutor. No one rescued Wardlow except for himself, but he was the victim. And so his path out of the victim was by creating his own future, right? Which went through MJF. And MJF's so great that like he helped so much in this. But what did he get? He got squash matches, kind of a brief feud with Samoa Joe, kind of a brief feud with Christian Cage, but never really got to see what Wardlow's world really is. And I think that's one of the things, right? We never got to see what Wardlow could create. Who was he going to make himself after being treated like he was nothing? I think that was part of like psychology of humans, like and how we experience drama. Like that, I think Tony dropped the ball on that. But he did such a good job of getting him that victim role, right? And uh, I think it's an infamous moment in AEW when he no sold the lashes on his back. So, um, so that's the victim, right? It's the path out of being a victim is to this creator, right? The rescuer is to be like the coach, right? To build someone up to challenge them, or to just to build them up, right? And I think where we've seen Tony create this great rescue story is actually in the patriarchy, right? He's rescuing all these fatherless sons, and yet we're not really seeing him coach up Nick Wayne. I don't really care about Kip Sabian. Kind of cared about Luchasaurus Kill Switch, but Nick Wayne, right? Like that's his prodigy son. He should be building him up and coaching him, right? Which also makes the moment of betrayal all the more powerful. And so I think that part has been dropped, but I have total faith in Christian Cage and even Nick Wayne. Um, and then yeah, I'll get to the persecutor one after this, but oh, a lot of people hate Don, but he's a heat magnet. And I swear they put makeup on that scar every week to make it look worse. Kenny might need a colostomy bag after this one. Nigel has no chill. I mean, his comment about this up towards Danielson of like what was it? Like he can't be a vegan because he's eating brie, and then like he's like this 50-plus-year-old dude who's simping on like a 25-year-old Mariah May. Like, I don't think he cares, and I kind of respect him for it sometimes. Oh, I just love the V trigger so much. You know, it was like, oh, go off on Bischoff again, right? Like he was knocking Omega this week and saying like Omega still hasn't learned how to wrestle TV. Listen to the crowds, Bischoff. Like AEW fans love him. He's so over. He's always been over. And you don't like that he doesn't look at a camera angle a certain way. Get over it. We got Fletcher. How's Fletcher going to stop this? Oh, super kick. So I'm wondering, right, with like Osprey and everything going on, and don't mind the lights. It's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Um, Once you can start using the Tiger Driver 91 again, are they saving that for some like heel churn where you just become some just trying to kill everybody? You got points. You know what's hard is it's hard to boo all four of these guys. All four of these guys are so awesome, right? And like it's gonna be terrifying when we get two more with Speedball Bailey and and Josh Alexander, right? And then you throw in a Ricochet and a Okada. Um, you have like literally probably 8 of the top 10 wrestlers in the world right there. That's not including great wrestlers, like great wrestlers, like um, like Swerve Strickland. He's a great wrestler. Moxley's a great wrestler. Um, you know, they're gonna probably get Jeff Cobb, who's a great wrestler. Like, if they're out of the top 10, no, they're not top 10, but they're probably top 25, top 30. Yeah, right. Orange Cassidy's a great wrestler. Think of the Stun Dog Millionaire there. Love that hook kick. Yeah, right. We're even forgetting about like the Young Bucks and who maybe are not like as athletic as they used to be, but still know how to put on a great match. You know, if we're going traditional too, FTR, great wrestlers and great storytellers. I mean, that's what's so cool is like you can put FTR in any type of feud and it works. You can put Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page in any feud and it works. That might not always be true of someone like an Omega, to be honest, right? Or you know, who maybe don't have that other type of charisma that you want, right? Like he doesn't have the charm of Harley Cameron, but Harley Cameron can't do what Kenny Omega can, right? And so it's like But like guys like Swerve, they can um, they can do any type of match you want them to, right? And even the girls, right? Like so many good wrestlers, right? Statlander's awesome. Megan Bain is awesome. Mercedes is awesome. Willow's awesome. Julia Hart's awesome. Like it's such a great roster. And I'm forgetting people, right? Britt Baker's good. There we go. Now I hope this is the end of the feud. I could see it not being that way if Jeff Cobb gets involved and maybe we see some type of reunion with Mark Davis and Jeff Cobb and but maybe they're just a heel group, right? And we see that. All right. So, what I was going to say before about the drama triangle, right? And so we moved to that persecutor role, which is like um, the person who attacks. You've got the aggression, right? They're the instigator. Maybe at Thanksgiving, you got that uncle who likes to start crap with everyone. That's the challenger, right? That's the persecutor and the drama triangle. So, in AEW right now, the top heels are the Death Riders. And the reason some of this doesn't always feel right is they're actually taking the role of um, of like the redemption story of a persecutor, which is the challenger, right? Which is they challenge people to do better and they challenge people to do good, and they challenge to make things better. So they're being heels, right? Which is the persecutor, while they're simultaneously trying to make AEW by promoting and getting people more involved and all this stuff, which is what you want in a redemption arc story. Um, and it's like this doesn't make sense, right? But like if Moxley were a face, right, when there was some huge evil thing, right, like back in the day, like the Authority story with Daniel Bryan or Brian Danielson, that was a great one, right, of uh, of of Brian Danielson being the challenger to the corrupt thing, right? That's the redemption story. Moxley's trying to do that while being a heel, so it doesn't work. Um, right? And if they were just strictly committed to being holding AEW hostage and letting Darby or letting Will Hobbs or letting a Jay White take that from them, um, then that enables Jay White or Darby or Will Hobbs to be the challenger and give them the same arc that Brian Danielson did at WrestleMania 30. So it's like sometimes like the it's Cartman's drama triangle. Why I struggle with some of these bookings at times, but Tony did a lot of really good things to make these things happen. Right, like it's not me just hating on him. Um, I think Tony's done a great job. In general, I tend to enjoy AEW. Um, the bad weeks are like it was fine, and the good weeks are amazing. man, it's like, um, yeah, I'm just, thank you everybody for joining the chat and talking with me. It's super cool. Last time we had people coming in from YouTube. This time we got people on Twitch, so that's pretty awesome. So I have a prediction here tonight, which is I'm probably wrong. I'm like the Chael Sonnen of these things, but my prediction is that Saraya will cost Mercedes the belt because one, she was uh, because she was connected to Saraya through the Outcast, or yeah, the Outcast, and then also Mercedes almost took her career. So right, it's like you take my career, I take your belt, and I think that's a way that you could tell the story to help Harley win the belt because she's white hot right now. But I heard that the Renegades might be starting something with Mercedes soon, and they could cost her the match. Which doing that in Australia in front of her home country could help uh, get more heat on Mercedes and lead to a bigger moment when Harley could capture it. But I don't know if they're saving it for Megan Bain. I don't know if they're saving it for, I don't know, a lot of people. I love how the Feel the Wrath sign is right in front of her. A good crowd tonight here in Brisbane. Yep. I mean, I heard some people say right that Harley Cameron can't win this match because AEW's were the best wrestle, and Harley Cameron's not a worker like Mercedes, but Harley's really improving. Like she started training like 3 years ago. She does not look like somebody who's 3 years in. You can see some of the green in Harley in this match still, but it ain't Jade Cargill. Oh, Oh, so her Mercedes is doing a great job helping carry this match. You know, Mercedes hasn't been the best character in AEW, but man, she's great in the ring, right? Some of the matches she had with Willow and Statlander were insane. And so, like for a product that loves pay per views, like AEW does, Mercedes is awesome. All right, so yeah, so those were the two things I posted on Psychology on X this week. The Cartman's Drama Triangle and the negative bias study. Um, One applying to Tony as a critique, but also praising him, right? Because he did some things right to get it to the point where it just fell short. You know, this isn't Vince Russo. Did just completely was like nonsensical, right? I mean, there's some stuff, right? Like the Mark Davis story and how did he get to be a part of Don Callis story. I mean, that was not really tied well together. Um, but it's not like the Invisible Man, right? It's not like putting the WCW champion on yourself or championship. Um, so, um, yeah, let's go to some Chat GPT stuff. All right, um, so I work in a pretty low income area, and there's a lot of substance abuse, and there is a lot of trauma in these in this area. And so something that I try to do with is to find ways to help clients regulate their nervous system and their emotions. So here are some ways. I'll just go over them quick. It was yeah. I'll just go over quick. So deep breathing, 4-7-8. 4 seconds in, hold for 7, exhale for 8 to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, right? And this is to help with emotional regulation. And you know, I've seen Andrew Huberman will do the breathe, where it's like breathe in as long as you can, and then snort one more time, and then exhale it. I've seen that one too. I've tried that one. That one works all right for me. So it's like, and so that's like one that Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist from Stanford, teaches. Yeah, that's a form of regulating through breathing, and it helps reset your nervous system to help you not feel so overwhelmed. I'll get to some more after the match. Right. And if you think about like if you give Harley the belt, whether it's like here another time, um, there's a lot of good heels that can work with her, right? Like you could bring up Ember Moon or sorry, Athena from Ring of Honor. Um, you could do more stuff with Mercedes. You could have Megan Bain. You could uh, even just do like week to week, right? Like you could have her work with a Nyla Rose. You could have her work with a Penelope Ford. Uh, you could have her work with Britt Baker, right? Because with all the rumors and stuff going around, it's like it's hard to cheer for Britt right now, whether they're true or not. You could even have a story right where Soraya would turn on her. Another heel story you could have, probably a good one. Um, you can even do face versus stuff, right? Like you could have Hikaru Shida come in and be like, if you want to prove you're the ace, right? You got to challenge me, or right? And you can do Serena Deeb again, right? And just to help her get more work. There's a lot of heel stuff that you can do against Harley Cameron to help her kind of groom her more. And she's got a better style than like someone like Jake Cargill, where Jake Cargill worked one way and it was so dominant, right? Or even right like Deanna Peraza with Taya Valkyrie, right? Like you could do rematches with Harley that way. Ah, I'm waiting for to Harley so over. I was saying too, like great workers, right? Like um, guys like Brody and Buddy, great workers. Canadian Destroyer. Oh, good power bomb. I see a lot of knocking on Tony Schiavone, and he's not that bad. Like, I don't think he's the best. Um, he's not that bad, right? I think Nigel's the best. Um, if they ever want to replace Tony, like, I feel like the only guy who would feel right by me, and it's not even like Corey Graves, right? It's Mauro Ranallo. Like, it's the only way I think I would be genuinely okay with the replacement of Tony Schiavone is like get Mauro Ranallo. I don't think I don't think Tony's great, but I don't think he's terrible. Not surprising. And who knows, right? Like AW has done this thing, right, where eventually a act will lose, even in their hometown, right? Like, or they'll lose. Like if you think about the acclaimed back in the day, right? Like, if you think about Private Party recently, if you think about Mercedes, not Mercedes, sorry, um, Thunder Rosa, right? Like there's like this chase pattern that Tony loves. Okay, so back to regulating your nervous system. All right, so another way you can do it is like humming and chanting. And the reason like humming works is actually stimulates something called the vagus nerve, which promotes relaxation. And the cool thing about the vagus nerve is the only nerve in the entire body that isn't unilateral; it's bilateral. Meaning like this. So like when I have a nerve in my like arm and I feel it go all the way down to my hand, that same nerve in my hand will not send it back up my arm. But what the vagus nerve does is if you stimulate that, it actually goes from the stem of your brain down through like your chest and your heart and your stomach and your nervous system, right? Which is why people who don't have a regulated nervous system can have like these full body responses, right? Maybe they have jittery feet or hands, um, and that's because of like your nervous system. And so what the vagus nerve does is you can actually send messages through your body to your brain to say to help it calm down. And it's just by even doing things like humming or chanting. And when you stimulate that nerve, um, your your body tells your brain that you're okay, which helps ease some of the anxiety, right? Um, so humming, right? Yeah, you might be annoying like Will Ferrell and the other guys, but it does work. All these have pretty good scientific evidence. Um, okay, so another way of regulating, right, is there's something that we use in therapy called the window of tolerance. You have hypervigilance, high functioning state, hypovigilance. Call it three-lane highway. When you've had tremendous amounts of stress and trauma and anxiety and depression, sometimes that middle lane, the high functioning, becomes the size of a motorcycle, and someone with significant mental health challenges will be going back and forth, oscillating between that hypo and hypervigilant state. So high anxiety, panic attacks into like lethargic, low mood, numb and empty, depressed. And so what you do is if you, the goal is to always try to find a way back to the middle lane. So if you are in that hyper vigilant, that panicked, overwhelmed, stressed out, anxious state, slowing down your life, right? Taking a nap, doing these deep breathing exercises. That's hopefully some like even some more fast acting SSRIs, right? There's one that just come out called Ovelity that is very fast acting for depression. Ooh. But Will's kind of got a good psycho face. Is that what's next? Ooh. Now here's the interesting thing, right? Is what happened to challenging for the trios title? We haven't seen FTR in a little bit. Maybe I missed an injury or something. Someone hit me up and tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if someone from FTR got injured. I do suspect that we are going to get a Jay White heel turn here pretty soon. Maybe that's the way that you get Christian Cage and Cope back together because um, maybe in Christian Cage's attempt to get the belt, Cope has a score to settle with Death Riders in there and they end up tagging again, right? I don't know. I'm not a booking, I'm not a creative genius. I just said shout out to my friend Tom Chilstrom. Tom's a great booking mind. He's a smart guy, great at wrestling. Give Tom a shout out at Tom Chilstrom. Oh, what amazing moment. Ah, I hope that's like the new Judas, right? Like that would be insane. And the love's got to be here, right? Like I hope there's not like any Australia, New Zealand tension. Is this Claudio and or is this Pack or is this Wheeler Yuta? That's kind of funny, right? That like Claudio's kind of coming out like the Shield member, right? Like the original Shield when they had the masks on. I wonder if that's like a Shield homage to him, or maybe he's just really into Mortal Kombat. When are they gonna do something with Marina Shafir? This would be a great time to like let Beth Phoenix come out and just beat the crap out of her. Yeah, this is like there's something like I struggle, right? And I'm who am I to talk? I'm nearing 40. Um, but like one of the things that makes me feel like that Adam Copeland, even heck, right, even guys like Claudio, who are doing it in their 40s and 50s, there's an athletic ability that was always there, that like they're able to still pass by, right? Like I think about football, guys like Rod Woodson and Charles Woodson, who started off as corners but moved to safeties. You can make that transition to a less athletic thing, but still passes. That's what's hard about like watching guys like Matt Hardy, and Chris Jericho. Is like that athleticism isn't there, and you could tell a story in the ring. Heck, even like Dustin Rhodes is more like the Cope and right, like even AJ Styles, another great example. Like there was always this really great athleticism, and it's hard watching like Jericho and Matt Hardy sometimes because like it's probably years and years of injuries on guys who were decently athletic, but it's like all the rest of us, it just catches up. And they're in good shape, right? It's not that like they're unathletic; they're athletic for their age, but they didn't have that like great athleticism. Ooh, still in the sting spot. Man, it scares me after his fall off the cage. Now, hopefully, he's like I've heard Brian Danielson say that no one knows how to take those bumps like Darby. Like Darby knows how to take all of his stunts in safe ways. Um, I hope like Darby's teaching a class on that. You know, because the WWE style, which works for WWE and WWE fans, right? It's a much more safe way. But if you could teach those guys how to take this stuff, that's like one of the things that helped like all the extreme stuff in ECW get over. Interesting, right? Like that they have the Bullet Club era. You know, it'd be interesting, right? Is Finley is a free agent. Eventually, it'd be nice to see the War Dogs, that version of Bullet Club, and into AEW. Because that version of AEW or that version of um, Bullet Club, I think actually would do really great with against the Death Riders. Like that's the kind of violence that they want to portray. Oh, all right. So back to regulating your nervous system. Thank you everyone for watching. I'm guessing because it's a cool event. This is why they have the most viewers I've ever had on Twitch and X. So thank you. Thank you everyone who's tuning in. So I'm talking mental health here. We're also talking AEW while AEW is going on. So other ways to rep, we just talked about deep breathing and humming and how it stimulates something called the vagus nerve, right? And so when you hum and when you do deep breathing, it calms the vagus nerve, and your nervous system will tell your brain that you're fine, even though your mind's freaking out. It's the only nerve in the body that does that. So, all right, other things that can help regulate you. Um, right? Some people have what is called a freeze response. It is a stress and trauma response. If you think about it, it's the deer in the headlights. And this person is the person who has a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. Maybe when they're depressed, they feel frozen and shut down. They can't find a lot of energy to do stuff, and they just want to like binge watch television. Um, and so And so if you have that freeze response, right, we can go over the four other types another time, but um, one the opposite of freeze response is a flight response, right? And so which is why walking and yoga and stretching and like light exercise reduces stress, regulates your nervous system, brings you out of that state, and helps you, right? So the opposite of freeze is flight. So that's what it does to your nervous system, right? All right, so if you are also in that free spots too, that's why something shocking can help pull you out of it, right? And so it can activate the nervous system. I think this is a big reason why guys like Andrew Huberman and so many other people are talking about doing these ice baths as soon as you wake up, right? It pulls you out of that nervous system state, does stuff for muscle healing and repair, and I think it just makes you generally more alert. So cold exposure can do that, right? It's like you put a um, actually have something going on right now. I live in Minnesota, and tragically, I'm allergic to the cold, and so I get all these hives and rashes and blisters all over my hands. And so you put a really flat, lethargic person in this Minnesota winter going on right now, where it's extremely cold right now. That'll wake them up. That'll pull them out of that free state. So Progressive muscle relaxation, right? So this is tensing and releasing the muscles and helps release tension, right? And so it's like you think about the dog stretch where they just go like this and then they stretch it out and then they just relax. Sometimes doing that, like flexing a muscle, slowly letting it go, right? Helps reduce muscle stress, calms the body, which then also calms the mind. So these are all regular. We'll keep going with them, but let's get back to AW. Marina Shafir kind of looks like that girl who was the girl you didn't want to mess with, and like a Michelle Rodriguez. I've heard people say that those kendo shots are like some of the worst shots to take from a weapon, like way worse than a chair. Oh, oh! Claudio's taking prompts from the MJF about learning to cuss on these events. Ah, oh! Oh! I feel like these two were made for each other. Marina Shafir moment. Kick out. Kick out. Interesting. I didn't see that happening. I got some heat. I don't know if it's the kind of heat you want, but it got some heat. Jay White's a great seller. Great. Oh, elite wrestlers, right? Before we were talking about great to elite. Like Claudio's in there too. Okay, so more nervous system stuff, right? So we got done progressive relaxation. Um, one thing that I do from every now and then, right, is one way you could do this, shaking it out, right? Just that. I tend not to do that when I get overwhelmed. Like a lot of people with anxiety, I can become irritable and frustrated, and so um, punching a bag or kicking a bag like a boxing bag or Muay Thai bag, or yelling in my car helps kind of get out some stress and getting in your body and getting all that out of your body helps kind of regulate your nervous system. So sometimes you just have to get up all this other built up energy in your body to help you kind of ground and regulate. That's why sometimes it's really hard for people with ADHD, right? Because myself included, having ADHD, is that if you feel trapped in something that's really hard, your body becomes overwhelmed with like it's like I gotta get out of here. I gotta need to go do something. And so sometimes, like especially kids with ADHD, need so much exercise just to regulate, right? And like dogs are this way. Like I have a pit bull who needs like 6, 7, 8 walks a day, like mile-long walks. And we could probably break that down to 2 4-mile walks, but I just don't have the time, or my wife, or anybody else in my family. Um, and somebody's just got to get that energy out of your body. Okay. Other ways to regulate your nervous system, right? And so, common one, the 5 4 3 2 1 grounding. So, when you are doing something, stop. Name 5 things you could see, 4 things you could touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And what you do is that when you get grounded in your body, you get out of your mind, and by getting out of your mind, you're you're less preoccupied with what feels out of control, right? By once again, if your body tells your mind you're okay, it calms you down. Um, so getting in your body is a huge thing. When a lot of people, when they're really overwhelmed or stressed or anxious, are very preoccupied in their minds. People with a lot of trauma, one of the signs that I see in people with different types of trauma is they are overthinkers. And people who overthink are trying to find their way to emotional stability. And they can't get there, so they overthink. And so having grounding techniques of getting into your body and regulating that then calms the mind and stops the overthinking. Ah, tribute to his wife. And while we're waiting, I just want to send a word of encouragement to people. This is not me body shaming anyone, or saying anything's unacceptable. I've lost almost 70 pounds in the last bit or so. And I think what was helpful, right, is I've been a yo yo dieter my entire life. Um, and so I just want to say, like, if you have something that you struggle with, that you want to change, um, he'll find systems of support, right? So I hired a weight loss coach, and then my wife has been so unbelievably supportive in all this. And then find um, try and heal some of the barriers, right? So like for me, it was emotional eating. Um, for me, it was finding new ways to satisfy my ADHD, which I'm still trying to do. Um, and Because like for people with binge eating, with you're significantly more likely to have it with ADHD because it gives you the dopamine you're looking for. So that to be said, right, is like find ways to work through the barriers that are in there and find supports. And you can do it. Be kind to yourself. It's not all or nothing with a lot of goals. I love that saying, right? That a lot of people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10 years. Um, and Yeah, so if there's something that's hard that you're going through, I've been trying to do this my entire life, and this is the most success I've had. And so I want to tell you it's possible, and be kind with yourself, and work through your barriers, find supports, and create realistic long-term goals, and you'll accomplish a lot. Having to quit, get something to drink. Hey, who says the B word more now? Okada or Dustin Rhodes? If Buddy doesn't win this, they better give him so much. All right, so back to some nervous system stuff, right? So we just got done with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. People with a lot of sensory stuff, right? So if you're neurodivergent, I have ADHD, some people with autism, um, but people with anxiety can really benefit from a weighted blanket. What it feels like is a hug, and a hug from a safe person has actually been proven to help regulate your nervous system. right? Sometimes having some pressure on your body makes you feel like you're grounded. Another way that I do this, right, is once again to get back into my body is, and I get made fun of at my apartment building all the time for this, but I walk barefoot because the barrier of the shoe and the sock between the floor, having your feet touch the floor actually helps with grounding. Um, that's what a weighted blanket does. It actually weighs you down, can feel like a hug, and helps stabilize your nervous system. Um, yeah, so massage can help be grounding. Um, some people, I'm doing a lot of what's called somatic stuff right now. Um, some people don't like that as much. Some people like DBT and CBT, right? So one way that you can work through things, right, is shifting negative thoughts into positive perspectives, and that's called reframing. It's a common CBT thing. Um, before I keep going, I'm gonna pull up quick pull something up for the next point. Um, okay, so one way of reframing was I, like many other therapists, can struggle with something called compassion fatigue, or other people call it vicarious trauma, which is the kind of emotional distress that you get from hearing gnarly things. And one way that I reframe it is like when I feel exhausted and burned out and don't want to do it on certain days, I will reframe it and say, I'm really proud of myself for doing hard things. I'm really proud of myself for doing meaningful things. I'm I'm really proud of myself for helping make someone's life better. And so just reminding myself like that, like while I'm doing the hard thing, I'm doing a good thing. It helps reframe it so it just doesn't feel like this overwhelming, burdened, negative experience. And sometimes it's hard, and the more burned out you get, the harder it gets to feel those things and think those things. But so that's one, right? It's called reframing. The next one is journaling, and the best one that I saw was from Andrew Huberman. He did something from Dr. James Pennebaker, who did a lot of studying on emotional effects of journaling. And one thing he talks about is for 4 days, journal from 15 to 30 minutes per day, and just talk about the facts and your feelings around it, and just write the entire time. And what they've shown is if you do this for 4 days in a row for 15 to 30 minutes days, the effects on your cortisol and your stress can actually have, it can impact it in a positive way for months. Get back to the AW. You know who I love? Is like his elbow drop is Bronson Reed's. Oh, oh, almost said in the curb stomp. Come on, buddy, kick out. Yes.
So I think regardless of what happens to Money, this is what he needed today, right? And this helps him. And it's like, um, I want to see him and Brody eventually become tag champs. I think if we're gonna do a violent story around the Hurt Syndicate, you need a violent team to do it. And I think Brody and Buddy are those guys. Oh, low blow. That's over. What? Orange Cassidy's back and then just. That's the storyline they give him. All right. All right, let's do some more quick things. Um, Laughter and play. A great way in a social environment to regulate your nervous system, right? Which is why some people have a nervous laughter. It's a way of self soothing. Stephen Colbert has this great point where he says you can't be laughing genuinely afraid of someone, right? Like in a nervous laughter, that's true, but right. But if you're like enjoying yourself with someone, you're probably not overwhelmed. Obviously, there's examples of that, right? But you're probably not. talks, hugs, and this is similar to like the weighted blanket, right? Which is like sort of a grounding thing. Physical contact and embrace can regulate, and that's not including what that you feel emotionally in terms of like actually feeling loved. And then co-regulation, which is being around someone calm can help you feel more calmed, right? Which sometimes is dependent, right? And sometimes you see this in struggling relationships where both people are not regulated and they just build off each other. You see this a lot in codependent and enmeshed homes where relationships just build off each other. But if you have some people who know how to self-soothe and self-regulate, being around someone can help regulate. Sometimes I feel like that's the one of the biggest benefits of therapy is not having a therapist who will freak out when you're freaking out. Um, okay, so other things, right? Certain foods can and drinks can really affect with your nervous system. I've had clients who will have energy drinks and they will have panic attacks after. So that's because um, the caffeine stimulates the nervous system. Nervous system was already pretty maxed out. It sent them over the top. They started having panic attacks, right? Um, Other ways of doing it right is good sleep hygiene. My anxiety has gone down significantly ever since I got on a CPAP. I've had other clients who report and feel the same. Um, yeah, and so sleep, right? And they've done studies that this is like Johan Hari, if anyone's ever heard of him, but he talks about how good sleep will affect more, will do more good for your mental health than medications and therapy and a lot of other stuff. Um, right, and this goes to the caffeine we're talking before, limiting your stimulants. Some people can do this by eliminating noise or screen time, right? If you have like neurodivergence, certain noises may stimulate your nervous system in an uncomfortable way. Um, Certain people are impacted very much by screen time, which is why getting um, like certain lenses on your glasses can help with that if you have glasses. But just not watching much screen time or stuff on the screen before you go to bed. And then nature, right? And before, like I said, walking barefoot can help. Being outdoors can help. I know for me, living in Minnesota, spending time in the water is always a very calming thing. My wife feels it around like walking the trails. I've had friends in other states talk about the mountains doing the same for them. So being out in nature can be really helpful. Hey, I don't know the exact start time, so I don't know exactly when we're ending. Because this is last, I tend to believe that Tony Storm is winning. They're gonna want to give her the hometown, like take the crowd home happy. Man, Mariah May is getting it. Love Tony Storm's gear tonight. Man, Mariah's giving her a lot. Man, I'm not against it, right? Because this is Tony Storm in her hometown. She's giving her a lot. All right, get some more Psycho Ed. Yeah. Let me. I kind of hit the end of my notes. Um, I don't know if there's more TV time or I just didn't prep maybe fully, but let me think of a few other things. So, um, I'll go back to the window of tolerance stuff that I was talking about before, right? Hypervigilance, hypovigilance, high performance. If you are someone like myself who probably struggles with depression more than anxiety, one thing you can do to bring yourself out of that state is to, once again, to stimulate your nervous system. And we're going to keep it to resting here. So for a while in the pandemic, when I was struggling with it, weirdly enough, Judas by Fozzy would do it. But now, like the past year, there's something about Osprey's theme that like hypes me up. And so like I tend to struggle with that those feelings of depression and like the hypo vigilance in the morning. And so I'll put headphones on while I'm in bed, play something like that, or I'll play like heavy metal. Like I'm into bands like August Burns Red, or Architects, or Silent Planet, and that helps awaken my nervous system in a way that in that like other ways don't. And so yeah, but when I'm in hyper vigilance, right, the anxiety part, I can listen to some stuff like Bon Iver is something that really kind of calms me down. Stuff like the War on Drugs, Lord Huron, and so I can use music a lot to kind of to fix my nervous system. By the way, I am getting all the commercials on Max tonight, and they're showing a commercial for the TV show The Pit, and this might be one of my favorite shows that I've watched in a while. It is so good. Noah Weil is amazing, but some of these support characters are amazing too, and I love how it's filmed. It's filmed like the show 24, where they do the entire series over a 24-hour period. It's super cool to watch because you're like basically watching an emergency room, an underfunded trauma emergency room in Pittsburgh, which is why it's called the Pit, in actual time. It's awesome. You know what's interesting is like Tony Storm's got one of those like her like lower body looks like incredibly strong, right? Like you look at like Chris Statlander and Camille and Willow and Megan Bain. You can see why they could lift a lot of weight, right? But I think like Tony Storm looks like it's almost like Claudio, where it's like scary strong for their physique, right? Because it's like you look at a guy like Claudio, and he's like not the size of Will Hobbs. He's not the size of Wardlow, but he's freakishly strong. These girls are great. That's one of my favorite things, right? Like when people hit them with their own moves. He's in the doghouse with me now, but I loved when back in the day when Punk would hit Cena with like the attitude adjustments. Speaking of Punk, right? And it's like and I see this in so many other things, right? Like it's how you measure success. Punk was always just about drawing money, right? Which is the same thing that Bischoff and Mark Henry and all those guys talking about drawing money. And I get it to a point, right? Because you got to have enough money to succeed. The hard part is like you look at everything going on in the world, and not to get too political, but you know who draws money is Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. They draw money. And I don't want to live in a world where we consider them successes because there are so many people who are struggling. Some of them do it to themselves, but a lot of people don't. And those, we're needing a lot of help. And so, like, your ability to make money shouldn't be the only category of success, which is why I love Osprey and Omega and Okada and all these people who loved Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling, where it wasn't just about drawing money, it was about the love of wrestling, right? Which is why I love Brian Danielson's the king. We need to find, as a society, more measurements for success that isn't simply metrics. Um, like I worked and interned in churches from sometimes, and like I would see these like small church pastors who would become incredibly deflated and depressed because they would compare their churches to these mega churches. Um, and um, like I've seen even therapist practices do this where it's like they compare themselves to like this local agency which is called Nystrom Associates, which has like thousands of providers, and they want to be that, um, right? And it's like we have to have different measurements of success that isn't simply money. Oh, I love Nigel. Whoa, and you protect Mariah May. I wonder if Mariah May takes it back at Revolution. I wonder. I wonder with like her, what her thing is like. But it's like, I wonder if we get Indy Hartwell showing up. And she's an Australian wrestler. I don't think so. Okay. Well, hey, thank you. That was a career high amount of watchers and engagers on X. That was super cool. Thank you guys. As I hypocritically just start talking about how finding different forms of success in viewership and how numbers don't dictate anything. Um, I'll tell you what, numbers do matter to me, but not because I need 293 people watching me next. Numbers matter to me because if the more people I can help, the better the world is, the more hopeful I feel about the world and life, the better life is for everyone else around us, right? Like, um, I just feel like if we can stop things like generational traumas and um, like societal traumas, right? Like, if we can get kids into therapy sooner, so we can prevent Columbines and school shootings, if we can, um, you know, get families into therapy sooner, so we can prevent abuse and neglect, if we can get families or individuals who are depressed, treated, maybe medicated before they become suicidal, um, I consider that a success. And so numbers do matter to me in that way. I want everyone to be well. I would love to be put out of a job. I, I have a fantasy of being able to go work at Costco someday because the world is doing better. So to everyone who's been watching, right, I got more viewers on Twitch tonight. Thank you so much. And I say this with the numbers that if you're struggling out there, please get help. Um, and if you don't know how to find help, you can message me on X at Ringside Shrink. You can follow me there. Um, and I would love to help you, whether it's helping you figure out something is like insurance in your state, to how to find a therapist, which you can go to like Psychology Today. Um, or if it's like, if I can, I even have free resources, right? So if you can't afford therapy, hit me up. I'd love to send you some free resources so that like you can do workbooks and worksheets and kind of help figure out yourself in the meantime. I just want this world to be well. So thank you so much. I hope you guys have a good night. That was a pretty cool episode of AEW Collision. So I see some criticisms on X right now that the matches were short. Some of it felt a bit short, right? Like I would have loved a little bit more time for Storm and May. I would have loved a little bit more time for the Death Riders versus Jay White and Cope. I wish they would have gave Jay White more spots in that match. Um, but Okada and Buddy Matthews was a good match. I think it helps Buddy Matthews and kind of building some momentum in the tag division. Um, Carly, Harley Cameron had some good spots in there. Were just entertaining. So yeah, looking forward to Dynamite on Wednesday. I will be on. Feel free to hit me up on X, Ringside Shrink. like I said, I care about numbers because I want people to get help. Please reach out on X, Ringside Shrink, if you need help, and I'd love to help direct you in a way to help you find some healing, some hope, and some support. So, thank you all for watching. Have a great day.